I was part of that Facebook group. There's the Facebook group out there
Right.
for women who are dating. And it's really not to bash men. It's more of, hey, there's everything in there from what do you wear on a first date to give me some
that's
good
cool.
places to go in Logan Square. So I had been feeling like, we've been dating for 4 months and we're not progressing. So I posted in the group. I posted some details about our situation. And lo and behold, somebody responded back and said, I guarantee you I know who you're talking about.
It's no accident that sounds like you're leveling up in a video game. 48% of 18 to 29-year-olds have an online dating profile.
Make them work for it.
45% of people say they're more frustrated with this form of dating than hopeful.
There are so many people you can connect with.
Should I swipe right?
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong. Setting the record straight on dating apps. Everyday people telling everyday stories of the swipe right world with your host, Koss.
Well, I know he had a good time.
You guys all know how it goes by now. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or possibly good night, just depending on when you're listening to the podcast. This podcast is the number one podcast in Santa's workshop right now. I don't know if there's anybody in Santa's workshop right now. They're probably, all the elves are probably all out at the strip clubs and just for the buffet, of course. They're out for the buffet, I'm sure. Welcome to the Swipe Wrong podcast. How's everybody doing? Everybody having a good week so far? I'm having an outstanding one. So I mentioned it in the intro to last week's show that last week had a little bit of tie-in to this week. You guys kind of caught the Polygamist last week. So if you skipped ahead, if you're that person who does the choose your own adventure and goes to the end and works your way back, first of all, shame on you. Nobody likes that. There's no fun in that. Nobody goes to the last 2 chapters of a book and reads the book and then goes, okay, well, let's see how that unfolded. That's just nobody wants to do that. So if you did and you're listening to this episode before you listen to the last episode, The Polygamist, go back, take a listen to that one because there's a little bit of tie-in. The tie-in will unfold more as we get into this episode. As I mentioned in the last one, though, this is one of those instances where I was extremely, incredibly, insanely lucky to be able to get to know this person solely through the conversation that we had. I didn't know her before, got to know her as we talked. Another phenomenal, amazing, awesome person that I got to speak to, and that was pretty cool. So you guys really know how it goes by now. You just sit back, you relax, you grab your popcorn, you put your feet up, you enjoy. If you're in traffic while you're listening, please don't hit that person next to you. You don't want to be that guy. Nobody wants to be that guy. And enjoy the unraveling of a polygamist. And one more word, of course, from the quote-unquote legal department.
Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speaker and do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions or any entities they represent. This podcast is about dating experiences. It is not to say one dating app is better or worse than another.
That's the unique thing. It's just how you guys organically or not organically became besties.
Yeah, we've become really close. And there's others too that, we've kind of grown close with, all because of one guy that we all dated.
So bizarre.
And so that story kind of comes, I guess, after some other events that happened, at least for me, my journey with dating. I was married I was in a relationship with somebody, married for 10 years, but with him for 16. And so when I first started dating, dating apps weren't really a thing. Like, I think Match was around, but
okay,
it was kind of taboo, right? Like, people didn't really do that. And so it was really more about meeting people out in bars and doing that kind of thing. And so that's how I met my then husband. And then, like I said, we were in a relationship for 16 years. And so when we got divorced, that's a whole other story that I've been told I should write a book about because it's like I tell it and people say that's a telenovela right there, which kind of makes the whole situation, what Kara and I experienced even that much more difficult in some ways, but now it's a really good thing. So everything is really positive now. I just want to start off by saying that. There's no lasting trauma or anything like that. Everything's been kind of worked through. So, which is why I'm able to share my story now. But, I was with a man who was great in many ways, but he had some infidelity issues. And then let's just say, for brevity, he is now with our au pair. So, so that was an interesting situation. And honestly, when that all went down and everything happened, I look back on it, it's like, it wasn't even my life. I look at the whole situation and what we went through and how I had to live with him and her, and they had to leave the house. They kind of left the house at the same time, and just finding out all of that kind of left me feeling like I had no faith in men and just love in general. And so I did what I think a lot of people would do, is put themselves back out there. And so I got out there, I got on the apps. I thought, all right, I'm going to go for it. And I wasn't ready to do that. That was crazy. I mean, I had a lot of work to do, I think, at that point, but I just wanted to fill my time with people and experiences. And, I was shocked at how the apps worked. I mean, I really thought that people that I matched with just really liked me. I thought, this guy's giving me attention. He must really like me. I had no idea that people get on those apps and that they're dating multiple people at one time, that people aren't honest. And I thought, I'm going to pick them. I'm going to pick them real good this time because I've been through a lot of bullshit. And that was just kind of foolish. And so I had a couple bad experiences there.
When was this? When did this all kind of got down the divorce and you started on the apps?
This was post-pandemic. So
okay.
It was, people were still kind of masked up. When I first started dating, it was still going on dates with masks. So that was spring, summer of 2021. Okay. And so I did find a relationship with a man that was somewhat healthy. But again, looking back on it, I'm realizing now that I'm doing things much differently. And I'll get to that whole process that I'm going through now. Okay. But like I said, it was more about just this, they must really like me. I'm going to jump into a relationship with this person. Oh, they're telling me the truth. I won't be fooled again. Sure. And I was. And so I kind of turned towards fitness. I became, I'm a bodybuilder. So I turned into, just really getting healthy, strong, and all of that. But in that process, I met, and he was charming as all could be. I mean, I'm sure Kara told you, he just really made you feel like you're the only person that mattered. And again, I was being very naive and I believed everything he said. And so we dated for a while. We dated for 4 months, and we were intimate, and he had said, we're just with each other. And so again, I wanted to believe him because I had been so burned in the past that I thought, nope, they're not all bad, Yeah. But something inside, and I think the difference between Kara and myself is I felt something was off pretty early on with him. There was something in my gut that said, I don't know about this guy. And I'll give you an example. There was one weekend he needed a digital detox. And he said, all right, I'm going to go away. This was on like a Wednesday. He says to me, I'm going to go away tomorrow and I'm going to turn off my phone and I'm not going to talk to anybody for a whole weekend. And I said, okay. That I remember thinking, well, that's kind of strange. And I remember calling my sister and I'm like, he's going on a digital detox. He's not going to bring his phone. He doesn't know where he's going. He's just going to drive somewhere and just be there with himself. And she's like, that doesn't sound right to me, Right. So that was kind of my first warning sign. And I remember asking him after that weekend, he came back and I had told him, I said, I didn't really like that. I didn't like how that felt, not hearing from you for, 3 whole days. And he said, yeah, I know that was really kind of wrong of me. And then I said something to him like, are you dating other people? And then he called me neurotic, like just out of the blue. And I said,
shit.
what? Why am I, how is that? We're in a relationship. I haven't heard from you for 3 days. Who does that? And so somehow he ended up fooling me and I believed him. But then something just didn't feel right. Like with our days, our schedules never really lining up. And it was like, I was always Monday girl. So he was always free for me on Monday. But if I happened to have like a random Thursday or Friday free and I asked him about it, he'd be like, oh no, I can't, And now I realize why that was. It's because he had multiple people that he had Tuesday girl and Thursday girl. And then his weekends aligned with one person and not with me. And so, anyway, I ended up, I was part of that Facebook group. There's the Facebook group out there, for women who are dating. And it's really not to bash men. It's more of, hey, there's everything in there from what do you wear on a first date to give me some good places to go in Logan Square. It's not all bad. And that's why I joined it. I wanted to get some ideas about date ideas. I wanted to just connect with other women that were kind of in the same boat. And so I had been feeling like, we've been dating for 4 months and we're not progressing. That's kind of always my question now that I ask myself is this moving forward? Do I feel this forward momentum with the person I'm seeing? And I didn't feel that with him. And so I posted in the group and I just simply, I left off his name. I did not post a picture because it wasn't about incriminating him or bashing him. It was more of, hey, what do you other ladies think about this? Right. So I posted some details about our situation. I said things like, I live here. He lives there. He plays volleyball a couple nights a week. He's got a couple kids. I've got a couple kids. And really, that's all I said. And I asked the group, I said, do you think it's odd that I've never met his friends, that he hasn't asked to meet mine, that he's only available on these days? And lo and behold, somebody responded back and said, I guarantee you, I know who you're talking about. It sounds exactly like someone that I have been dating. And so that's kind of how it came about. We offline discovered who it was. So again, I never posted him. I never said, this is the guy, It was more of like, we behind the scenes put it all together. And before you knew it, there were 3 other people commenting on this post. And then I had realized somebody else actually posted him in a different group. It wasn't me. And called him out on a bunch of behaviors that I was experiencing too. And so other people kind of had experiences with this guy. So there's now a group of us that have all had experiences with this man. And we're all really, really close friends because of it. And again, it wasn't to bash him. It was more about, is this strange? This is what my gut's saying. Would anybody else think that's weird? And then there were a lot of people that commented that didn't know him or didn't have anything to do with him, but that just said, yeah, that's strange, girl. Like you need to ask some questions. So I did. I asked him, I kind of confronted him and then that was really the end of our relationship because he revealed, who he really was at that point. So
when you confronted him, did he say, did he come clean or did he just say, I think it's time that we see other move on or break the relationship off?
Yeah. I mean, he was pretty respectful to me. He was always with me. He was pretty respectful about stuff. But again, because I pushed for more, because I was kind of holding him to a standard, I think I said something along the lines of like, I remember it was a weekend. There was a concert in town that I was going to, and he was going to be downtown also. And we were going to be nearby each other. And it was a weekend that we normally wouldn't have mutually together. But I was thinking, well, this is a great opportunity for us to link up, for me to meet some of your friends, or you can meet some of mine. And I remember him saying no. And so I said to him, oh, are we not at that point now where meeting each other's friends would be acceptable? And I mean, I'm dating a guy right now that I've only been on 3 dates with. And, we were out downtown last weekend and he said, I'll come meet you for a drink. I mean, it's not that big of a deal. Sure. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like somebody, it's not like it has to be the secret.
Yeah.
And so anyway, that was kind of, to me, I put it out there and I said, well, this is what I think. It's kind of strange. And then he said, well, I don't know what we are. I don't know what's going on. And that's when I realized, shit, I'm in a situationship, you know?
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
So,
unfortunately.
right. You know, he's like, well, I don't know how to define us. I don't know if we can put a label on us. I'm thinking, buddy, you've been telling me, like, we've been sleeping with me for the last 4 months, telling me that I'm the only person that you're with. You know, you claim that you're spending all your free time with me and you're telling me everything I want to hear, but yet we're not moving forward. So,
right.
So I'm actually really glad that he ended it that way. And then after the fact, like I said, that's when we found out a lot of the things that were happening in that relationship were happening with all these other women too. So we've become really good friends. And believe it or not, he is not the main topic of conversation any longer. You know,
That's awesome. So this group of friends, it's four or five.
There's four of us. There's four of us.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I've kind of heard her. How did you find? Because I think it was you that found Kara, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So she ended up seeing. It wasn't my post. She saw a post from somebody else that actually posted his picture, posted his name, and said avoid him. Which I would never, like I said from the beginning, I would never do that. You know, I don't think he's a horrible human being at his core, you know, and I don't believe in using those groups to defame somebody or to shame their character. It's, you know, I just,
because they can,
don't want that energy, you know, I don't want that energy.
Good for you. That's awesome. That's awesome.
But so she had commented on another post, and then one of the girls that had commented on mine saw that one. And then we all kind of put it together. We're like, oh, wait, you're dating him too? Oh, and so Kara and I realized we were actually dating him at the same exact time. Wow. So we overlapped. And that's when we realized, wow, he would be with me on, like, for example, we went away on Memorial Day weekend. We did a long weekend. We came back on Sunday, actually. And then he went right over to her place that night. Like after we were together, and he was texting with her while we were together on our vacation, you know, and that was pretty early on in our relationship too. So it's just, he was doing that probably the whole time for years with everyone. So that's that. So then that's kind of when I said, all right, I'm taking a break because I've gone from one horrible situation to another and something's off. Time to focus inward a little bit.
Sure.
And do things differently, you know, stop. I guess my big takeaway from dating and the apps is, my message would be to stop asking, do they like me? And do I actually like that person? Yeah, you know,
100%.
So that's kind of how I'm approaching it now.
That's when all this broke down, you stepped back, and then how long did it take for you to start asking yourself that question? Like, where did the change start to come from? Like when you're like, fuck, I just needed to focus on me.
But all went down probably in August that we all realized that it's the end of August, it was the end of the summer. And like I said, I'm a competitor. I had my first show in November, and then I did another show in December. So things had gotten pretty intense for me training wise and with my diet. And it kind of limited me with dating just because I couldn't, you know, go on dates and eat and drink like most normal people. So I thought, well, this is a really good time for me to kind of step back, focus on my goals, figure out what I want. Because the other thing that I've learned after looking back is a lot of these men that I dated post-divorce, they're not even people that I would date currently. You know, now that I feel like I've changed, I look at myself, I'm like, what? I wasn't really physically attracted to that person. I wasn't, who they are, who their value, like what their values are, don't align with mine. We don't have a lot of the same interests. I think I was just so hungry for attention after coming out of that divorce and validation, and just I wanted someone to say, yeah, you've still got it. Yeah. And in the process, I lost the main point, which is to find a relationship that's healthy and mutual and supportive. Right.
Right.
And so I guess I took the fall into the winter to kind of pull back. I got off the dating apps. Okay. I read a book. It's called The 4-Man Plan. Okay. And this is where the Mantrix was born. So I now have something called the Mantrix, which I have been busy with.
So help me understand the Mantrix.
Okay. So this is not my idea. I can't claim this totally as my own. I have adapted the Mantrix to my own. There are things and changes I've made, but I did read this book. I can't tell you who the author is off the top of my head, but it's called The Format.
Okay.
But basically what I do is I have set a time period. I think it was December 15th. I recreated my Hinge profile. All right.
Okay.
Instead of approaching it where I said, I'm going to just put up the best looking pictures of myself, pictures where I feel like I look the prettiest or the most interesting. That's kind of how I approached it before. Like, do I look hot in this picture? Would somebody find me attractive? And so I totally wiped that idea clean. And I said, all right, I'm going to only put up pictures that represent who I am as a whole. So I made a list of all of the things that I'm interested in, my personality. So I made sure to put a picture up with me with my kids, but I blocked out my kids because that's a big thing for me. If I'd see a dating profile and somebody has their kids plastered on there, it's kind of like immediate red flag. Yeah. So, but I want people to know I'm a mom. I think that's really important. And the first time I built a profile, I didn't include that, which big mistake number one. I made sure to put up pictures of me being silly. So for my work, I dress up in character and I lead presentations and professional development in different characters. So like, for example, there's a picture of me dressed up as Napoleon Dynamite.
Nice.
And, it's a side by
for Pedro.
Yeah. I have that shirt on in the picture. Vote for Pedro. With the wig and the glasses and everything.
Yeah. I don't love that. Like, you have to send me that picture if you don't mind. I would love to see it.
Send it to you. So I have that one. I also have up a picture of me doing a skit, the coffee talk from SNL. I was the Madonna and my friend Tammy, she's Mike Myers. And so we have that one up. I have a picture of myself in a fitness picture because I'm a fitness coach. So I have a shot that I did in a gym lifting weights, and that's a big part of my life. So I wanted that represented. Okay. So anyway, I just took time to really think about who I am and try to attract somebody that would find that interesting, So I revamped my profile. That was December 15th. And then I set a reminder in my calendar and I called it intentional dating era. Okay. So I have 3 months of my intentional dating era. And I made a promise to myself that I would really go for it and really put in effort, because what I want back is somebody that's willing to put in effort. So if I want that in return, I have to give it, Okay. So I promised to show up. I promised to check my messages, respond to my messages in a timely manner. If I like someone on the app, I will like it and also send a comment related to something in their profile. So to show that I'm actually interested. And so then when I'm looking, before somebody becomes a plan man, somebody that enters my Mantrix, you only enter the Mantrix if you've exchanged contact information off the app. So there's kind of a lot that goes into it before that happens. So things like, I'll ask myself, is this person matching my effort? Am I getting, if somebody likes my profile, are they sending me a message? I may match with them and give it a minute, give it a day, but if they don't come back and say anything to me, I most likely will unmatch, So there's a lot of matching that's going on, but not a lot of them are translating even to conversations. And some conversations, it's just, hi, how was your week?
Yeah, sure. Cosmetic, superficial.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, can you ask me anything about what I have in my profile? Sure. And so again, I try to do the same thing. And if I'm not feeling that vibe, the other thing I've started to do is on all of the apps that I'm using, they have a voice feature. So I send a voice message, and in my profile, I specifically say, don't hate me if I send you a voice message, because I don't love to text. Just as a person in general, I'm not a huge texter. Yeah. So I send that, and then I'll send a voice message. And if they respond back with a voice message, that's like huge bonus points, but they don't have to. I get that not everybody likes the sound of their voice and it's awkward, but I think it shows a level of effort again, and that's again, what I'm looking for. Yeah. So all of this happens. Then let's say somebody says, well, let's chat if you want to exchange numbers. I always will say yes if I'm feeling the vibe. I'm not one of those women that gives out a Google number or, avoids chatting, no, I don't care. I'll give you my number. We'll see what happens. Okay. So as soon as I give my number out and we have an exchange once back and forth, they enter the matrix.
Okay.
And in the matrix, there's 4 quadrants because the ultimate goal is to have 4 men on the matrix. Okay. There's different quadrants that you can place the names. And in the quadrants, I try to put information about them that I've gathered through the app, their age, maybe where they live, if they have kids, anything that's going to help me remember that person. So that way, when I'm talking to them, I have, because it gets hard. You're in all these conversations and you want to be
100%.
able to remember who you're talking to. And the worst would be like, oh, didn't I tell you that already? And they're like, no, that must have been your other boyfriend, So
totally.
You have to keep good notes. You have to stay organized.
Totally.
And I am an organized person to a T. I'm pretty type A. So this works really well for me. I also love data. So I am a huge data nerd. I take data on everything, hence being a bodybuilder. I mean, it's kind of goes with the territory. So this works really well.
Your food, your analytics, all up and down, right?
Yeah. So I'm treating dating kind of like a scientific experiment in the sense. How's it going? So since you've done that, like better dates, better quality people, better overall experience? I would say yes. I would say that the people that I've matched with now, we have much more in common than I have with the men that I matched with and went out with before. Because of these steps that I've taken. So the effort that you put in up front will give you so much that you need to know if you even want to pursue it, whereas before I was just so hungry for a date or hungry for attention that I matched with anyone.
Sure.
So,
and that had to be exhausting. I mean, honestly, like you must have been carrying on so many conversations. It had to be sensory overload.
Yes. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and this can get kind of overwhelming too, because the goal, again, it is to move pretty much as many people as you can into the matrix. And then, but once you go on a date, right? So I've gone on quite a few first dates recently. And this is where myself and the book, we kind of differ. The book would tell me everybody gets 2 dates. I disagree. I think that you learn a lot if you're asking the right questions and you've done a lot of the pre-work up front. You go into that first date already kind of getting a good feel for this person. And if you don't, it's on you. So for example, and I'm going to be fully transparent here.
Please.
I had a first date last night and I made a huge mistake in not doing a phone call or FaceTime with this person before.
Okay.
So because we were vibing, because I felt like, oh, his profile is really cute. And he did, kind of meet the effort criteria. He seemed like we had a lot of things in common. But when I got on the date, the physical chemistry was just not there. And it's not just looks is what I've realized. It's also, do you make me laugh? Do you make me smile? You don't have to be a comedian, but am I smiling on the date? Does it feel super serious? And so that is such a turn off if that's not there.
So without the phone call, I've heard and I've talked to, a good handful of people. A lot of times the text message, and that's where you're at, like versus the face-to-face conversation can be so different because they have time to create the message back to you and you're not seeing that same vibe when you're face-to-face. Is that kind of what you mean? What happened?
Absolutely. So I know for sure that if we would have done a call, even a phone call, it doesn't have to be FaceTime.
Sure.
But if we would have done a call, I could have gotten a better sense of his energy and just how he speaks or presents himself. I mean, there were a couple moments last night on the date. He was talking so softly that it made me self-conscious. I thought, am I a loud talker? Like, is he embarrassed right now?
You go Seinfeld, close talker and all that stuff too, right?
Exactly.
Yes, totally.
So I'm like leaning in. I'm like, what did you say? So there were just little things like that I just felt, God. And I drove home and I called my girlfriend. I was like, I know this is my fault. This is totally on me, 100% on me for not doing the call, because everybody I've done a call with that I've said, okay, let's go to a first date. Those first dates have been so good. So good.
So what is so I was going to ask, what is your, I hate to say it this way, but pre-screening process? So you go to text, you go to call, and then even on the text messages, like these women that you talked about earlier, they now, if I'm understanding it correctly, are also your support group, right?
Yes.
So like
Yep.
when you get a conversation, you say, hey, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Are you vibing the same way I am on this? Or am I missing something? Do you do that as well?
No, I try not to do that too much.
Okay.
What I do with that group is I may just show a picture of the guy and say, this is who I'm going out with. This is kind of his general identifying information, like his age, where he lives, if he has kids. But one thing I've realized from the process too is if I don't want other people to make decisions for me. If I have a concern about something, I will bring it to the group chat and I will say, hey, this happened, guys. How would this make you feel? Am I overreacting here? Or, so I will use my support system in that way.
Okay.
But I won't let them make decisions about who I'm going to go out with or not.
Okay. So then you're somewhat, then your pre-screening really is the phone call is important. Do you do background checks?
I did a background check on the guy that Kara and I dated. Yes.
The polygamist. We joked around and called him the polygamist.
I don't want anybody to think that what I'm doing with the Mantrix either is irresponsible or.
I think it's awesome from a guy's perspective. And I know like we're here talking, I've heard so much crap on just like what women have to go through. Like, I think like this is kind of like, if you have you feel like you have a purpose and a design and the way that you're going with it, I think it's helped you. Like two, you're like what you like. All right, so the ex and the infidelity, and then going into something else to where somebody else was cheating, and then like you said, you have a positive outlook on it, which is I think the best way that you can go about it. Also caused you to be introspective, and you probably feel so much better about you. And now you've turned it into, all right, I'm gonna be strategic about it, just so I don't make some of the same mistakes to do. And maybe you make the same mistakes, maybe the same thing happens, but it's just growing. I think it's amazing. So like just from a man's perspective, who probably sees it more through a woman's perspective than anybody, but I think it's awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. No. And I do want to say too, for the record, if any women, if a woman is listening to this and they wanted to try this, you can develop your own rules around intimacy and that kind of thing when you're, dating and multiple people at one time. For me personally, I keep that out of it. So that was the other mistake. And I'll just be completely honest. Again, coming out of a marriage, one of the biggest questions women are going to ask is, do I still have it? Like,
yeah, sure.
Can I still be a sexual being? Right. Like I've been with the same person for so long, and it's a big concern when you first get back out there. And I think that I made some mistakes with that. Not mistakes from being a safety perspective. I've always been safe there, but just with the Mantrix and that, I try to remove sex completely from dating, because I think that can cloud judgment. And once intimacy comes into play, you have expectations are placed. And I think part of that is what happened with the Polygamist is, you believe, because we're doing X, that means it's, we're a couple, and that's not the case. So if you don't want to be sharing somebody, then just don't do the thing,
Yeah.
Until you know that that's the one person you're going to be with. So,
and sex, the sex part of it is always complicated, because like, unless somebody's been married for 25, 30 years, or maybe some other random reasons, there isn't one person I know that doesn't like sex. I mean, everybody likes sex, no matter what almost anybody says. So like that's the thing that drives me a little bit crazy, is so many guys are so quick to, just try to say the dumbest shit in the world to fishing. It's their way of fishing, as opposed to organically just figuring out what's going on with the other person.
Yeah. Like I said, you can make your own rules, right?
Yeah.
Like, you want to go sleep with everybody in your Mantrix, then go do it. But be safe about it and be honest about it. And I think that was a big piece with the Polygamist, is that there wasn't that honesty. So it took that ability for us to make decisions for our own bodies away from us. And I think the way I'm approaching it now, it's more empowering. Like, no, I get to make these decisions, and I know what I want to do. I know what feels right for me. I know what's safe for me. So it's kind of given me more of that control and power back for my own self, right? Not to control anybody else, but to control my own outcome, I guess.
So even just listening to you and what you're saying right here, how different do you feel just about yourself and your identity now than you did 4 years ago?
I am really clear now on who I am as a person, what makes me happy. And I know that I am happy completely as a whole, being by myself, designing my life the way I've wanted my life. Now it's about who can I add to my life that's going to just, amplify it, just going to elevate it, not complete anything, not fill anything that's missing, because there isn't anything missing really. There's so much love in my life from other things that I've found. And it's really just about who is the best fit for me and who am I a good fit for as well. Cause it's not all about me. Obviously it's a relationship. It goes two ways, but the ultimate goal here is to really, who do I feel the most comfortable with? Who am I most myself around? And that's kind of what the Mantrix is helping me figure out.
Thank you for being along for the ride on the Swipe Wrong podcast, where we take everyday people like you and me telling their everyday stories of their swipe right life. Show is produced by Jay Pelham. He is the host of Pelham Place. If you want to reach out to the show and tell us your story, we'd love to hear it. Give us a call. Google Voice us at 317-426-6616. Leave your information and we'll get back to you, or just your story. You can also email us at swipewrongpod@gmail.com. We are on Insta, Facebook, TikTok. We're out there. I am Chaos, the host of Chaotic Commentary. You can find me pretty much anywhere that you see me. And next week, the saga continues.
Swipe wrong. Swipe wrong.